All right, this is chapter 5. This should be a pretty simple and short chapter, so we're only going to talk about how do we calculate the process costing. So there are several new concepts we're going to discuss here. One is we talked about the job costing in chapter 4, and this is another basic costing system. So there are two, job costing and a process costing. And process costing is mainly used in a mass production. For example, the companies are producing large quantity of identical items. So process costing will be more useful to in this scenario. So jelly beans is the one the book uses as the example, where mass production of the identical units are produced. So let's take a look at the chapter. We're going to do some calculations, so you should have the calculator with you to do some calculations in this chapter. So let's take a look here. So first objective is to distinguish between the flow of costs in process costing and job costing. Process costing, it gets to a little basic on what process means. The process here is how many steps to make things. For example, if you're making, say, a meal, so you're going to prepare a let's say the turkey, so for the Thanksgiving dinner, and you prepare multiple dishes, but this is one of the major one. For example, you're going to know the recipe. The recipe is about how many steps you need to do to prepare a delicious dinner for the family. So for example, step 1, we're going to clean. Let's say you took out from the refrigerator and you clean the turkey, and this is the first step. Second step is to, actually I don't know how to cook it. Let's assume you're going to put some salt, to put some pepper or whatever on the surface, and then step number 3 is to put into the oven where it has been preset to certain temperature, for example 425 maybe, and then you're going to put in for about 4 hours to cook. So those are the steps, and the steps here are also called processes. So process costing benefits. So list here is a cost trends, budget to actual, pricing, and financial statements. Cost trends is to, because you're doing a mass production, a large quantity of, say this is jelly beans. So you want to know the cost of the beans you're making. You're making different types, because when you're using different types, you're going to have using different materials. Different materials may have different costs, material costs, direct material costs associated to that. You may not have a lot of differences in the labor and overhead. Maybe you do, because some beans are maybe taking more time, because your labor, your direct labor and overhead, manufacturing overhead, are mainly based on hours. So that may have some certain implication on the cost. And different materials also have some kind of cost. And also the cost of materials may change. Cost of the labors may change. So when you are aware of all the necessary numbers or information about a cost for making certain batches of your jelly beans, and then you know whether we're making jelly beans at a higher cost or cost is going up or not. So that you can do, when you have the cost trend here, then you can see what are the pricing here. Are we going to increase our price? Because if your cost is going up, if your prices stay the same, and then you may suffer by losing your profit. So, or sometimes do we keep the price or do we increase price? Because it also has implication on the sales. So if you increase the price, your sales may drop because total sales may drop, total quantity of sales may drop because people find it's too expensive to buy. They may transfer to other products from other competitors. So there'll be a lot of considerations in here. Budget to actual is every time a company needs to make a budget. What is a budget here? Budget is to know how much it will cost the company to produce certain things at a certain amount within a certain period of time. So companies always make budgets. So for example, this month or this week or this day even, usually it's a little bit longer time. We budget to have, say, 600 pounds of jelly beans. So we budget to have certain direct materials costs at a certain amount, and labor costs, direct labor costs a certain amount, and manufacturing overhead at a certain amount. So if you have a detailed costs of what you are making, and it'll be easier to make your budget to the actual number, because it's be closer to actual number, so it's easier for a company to manage the business. Financial statements, it has implication because you know the cost. We're going to look at how we are going to put into journal entries. So when you know all the numbers in the cost, raw materials, direct labor, and manufacturing overhead for this particular product, and we're having here using the process costing, and then it'll be easier for us to prepare the financial statements because all the numbers can be entered into the journals in a fairly easy manner. So job and process costing, are they different? Yes, of course they're different, because job costing, they look at the cost on individual job cost records. Means, remember in chapter 4 we have job 101, job 102, job 104, whatever number you have. So you're going to have different costs assigned to different jobs based on their raw materials, based on direct labors, and based on the manufacturing overhead. So as we said here, and so individual jobs will be assigned different costs based on different categories. Cost of finished goods flow into finished goods inventory because each job we are having here is a complete work. So it means job 101 is to get a raw material, get a labor, get a manufacturing overhead, and then when you're working, it's in product in process, and then you have finished goods. And so after you finish job 101, 102, whatever number it is, and you're going to have the finished goods. Cost of goods sold, cost of sold jobs. Jobs flow out of finished goods inventory into cost of goods sold directly, and in the processing here, it's a little bit different. So we have different cost categories. Oh, this is job costing. Sorry, that's what we just talked about. So different jobs, and when you finish things, and they're going to go to the finished goods, and then when you record it, it'll be cost of goods sold. And at the same time, at each step, you're going to have wages, these are the journal entries, and raw materials, wages payable, and manufacturing overhead will get into at the different steps. You're going to put into different places. So in a work in process, you're going to have a debit of raw materials. You're going to have a wage payable. You're going to have manufacturing overhead here, and then total will be transferred to finished goods inventory, and then it's going to transfer to the cost of goods sold. Okay, let's see, we move on to the next one. Let's see. So you at the time when you are working, let me get back to here. When you do the journal entry, so you're going to have less in your raw materials because you use them. So if I credit here, you debit to work in process. You're going to increase in your wages payable because you're going to have liabilities to pay to your employees, and then it's also transferred to work in process inventory. And my manufacturing overhead also will be credited over here as a cost, and then you're going to as expense actually, and then it's going to be debit to your work in process. And once we finished, work in process will be credited, and then your finished goods will be debited, and it be increased or be debited, and then when all these goods are sold, and your inventory will go, finished goods inventory will be credited over here, and then your cost of goods sold will increase to that amount. So this is basically job costing. So now is the process costing. Process costing is a series of manufacturing process. There are steps. We'll look at each step, how much does it cost. So cost per process is accumulated and moved from one process to another. We have multiple processes. It's not like job costing. We have one job covers from the raw material to the finished goods. And in the process costing, we move from one process to another. And the processes between, mostly they are work in process. So cost transfer to finished goods inventory only from the working process of the last manufacturing processes. So the process before this last one is also work in process, but has not finished yet. So you may have multiple processes. So you have process 1, 2, 3, 4. Your 4 is the last process to finished goods, and you're going to transfer everything from the step number 4 or process number 4 into the finished goods. So that's kind of a different way to move the cost from one to another. When the units are sold, cost is transferred out of the finished goods inventory into cost of goods sold. This is the same. So you have finished goods. You are only going to sell the finished goods inventory, and this will be converted into or transferred into cost of goods sold. Move on to the next one. So here's the illustration. So also we have categories of different costs. Direct material, and then we have a direct labor, and we have a manufacturing overhead. So you have multiple processes, and until the last one after here's the packaging, and you're going to have finished packaging. It becomes a finished goods inventory. You do not transfer from the shelves. You do not transfer from the centers because they are not finished yet. So these are only finished at this step. So you're going to transfer the cost accumulated up to this point to the finished goods, and when that's sold, it becomes cost of goods sold. So the journal entries here are T accounts here. Raw materials are used all throughout the processes, and because you're going to use raw materials, for example, packaging, you're going to have those cardboard boxes or plastics or whatever materials used in the packaging. And here, and so cost of raw materials inventory will be 3 parts. One goes to the first process, another goes to the second process, another one goes to the last process here. And the wages payable, because you're having people to work in each step, and wages are paid in each step, so you're going to have a cost for wages in each process. Manufacturing overhead is the same thing. You're going to have manufacturing overhead for the first process, second process, and the third process. And everything's the same here because we transfer this last step of the cost into the finished goods inventory, and then while sold, we transfer into the cost of goods sold. So the building blocks of a processing cost, there are basically 2 things. We have a conversion here, actually 3. Conversion costs. Conversion cost is total of direct labor and manufacturing overhead. Direct material is a separate cost category in here. And another concept is called equivalent units. Equivalent units is how we do the calculation. It can be a pound of the jelly beans, a gallon of the paint, or some units you use. So equivalent units are used to calculate direct labor and manufacturing overhead. Because, for example, one product has finished at the stage of 60% of it has been finished. So how do we calculate the direct labor of that and manufacturing overhead? So we assume this total cost will be $100. We finished 60 of that. So we can say $100 times 60%, and then we say $60 can be accounted for as direct labor and manufacturing overhead. We're going to see some examples to find how. And there are two inventory flow assumptions with a weighted average and a first in, first out flow. So we do not use the last in, last out ways to calculate the inventory. So we're going to see how we are going to use direct first in, first out is more about the cost. We are going to look at, so for example, something comes in at different time and they have different costs. For example, one's $10, one's $10.15, one's $10 of 30 cents. And then we're going to, if it's first in, first out, we're going to use the $10, the material at a cost of $10 first. And when we use up all that, we are going to start using $10.15. And then when we use all the $10.15 materials, we're going to use $10.30 and so on. So first in, first out is how we use. So in our case here, this one is not so significant, but in the real business, yes, it is, because you're going to see we're going to account for the cost at different at the time when they arrive, and we're going to use the first in, first out. So second objective, how do we calculate the equivalent units? So this is building block. It's the amount of work done during a period in terms of fully complete units of output. And this output may not mean the finished goods. Okay, just keep that in mind. It's the complete units for that process. It's not complete goods that can be transferred into finished goods. Okay, keep that in mind. We're going to revisit this one. Assumption here again, weighted average and first in, first out. This is the cost benefits standpoint. Okay. Next objective is to use the process costing in the first production department. So we may have multiple processes. The first process here is the production department. We have the second one in this one is the second one is a packaging department and so on. So let's take a look here. The main thing in this chapter is you need to understand fully the 5 steps of process costing. Actually, it's not so difficult. We're going to use some examples to look at it. And we're going to summarize the flow of physical units. So we're going to total of the physical units. And we're going to see what that means. And the second one is to compute output in terms of equivalent units, because it's easy to do the physical units. You can count them, okay, raw materials. And this 1 pound or 1,000 pounds of something, or 100 gallons of something, or 100 some units, whatever unit the company is using, so of something. Yeah. So those are the you can use that as units. And then for the job, for the direct laborers and manufacturing overhead, need to calculate how many units equivalent to the job that has been completed in terms of equivalent units to account for direct labors and accumulated, not accumulated, it's a manufacturing overhead. So, and then we're going to compute output. Let's see here. We're going to summarize total cost to account for. So I'm going to put the total of the raw materials units, and then you're going to put a total of equivalent units to see how many is total. Then you're going to compute the cost per equivalent units. And then you're going to assign total cost to units completed and to units in any work in process inventory. If it's not the finished goods, so it'll be a work in process inventory. So here's the example. This is a book example. It's exhibit 5-5. And summarize the flow of physical units. It's pretty easy. So total physical units to account for, it's this one. Total physical units to account for. So it's a beginning work in process in October. On October the 1st, it's 0. Usually it's more. There's some numbers here, but here, let's say we just started. So we have a beginning. We don't have anything. And then we started production during this month. We have started to work for 50,000 units. So this can be 50,000 pounds, 50,000 tons, 50,000 gallons, 50,000, whatever the unit is the company is using. So total physical units to account for is $50,000. And now there's another one. Physical units accounted for. So it has been used. So here, completed and transferred out during October. So during this month, we finished 40 of those. Totally finished this process. And but there are something we're still working on. So we still have 10,000 units of the product we're still working on. Total is still 50. It's always equal. So physical units to account for always equals to total physical units accounted for. But here in the units accounted for, there are two parts, and in the first process, and then we have more probably depends on where we are. But here we just look at this one, completed, transferred out, and here's any work in process. So these are what we have. 40,000 is what we have finished. 10,000 is what we are still working on. So here in step 2, that's what we're going to move on to, is to find out equivalent units. Let's see what we have here for next step here. No, it doesn't have a slide for that. And we're going to calculate equivalent units. Equivalent units, again, direct material. Direct material is, okay, 40,000 units, and we're going to use 40,000 units of the materials, so it'll be 40,000. So when we're working, we have already used all the materials, so all the materials has been accounted for here. So 40 times 10,000 will be $50,000. So this doesn't change, but this may not always be the same. And we're going to see some other examples. This may not be always the same numbers, okay? Because it's possible that before this being finished, the raw material has not been used or only partially used. So we can calculate that number accordingly. And here is conversion cost. Conversion cost, as we said, they are the direct labors and the manufacturing overhead. So how do we account for these numbers in terms of units? So we're going to convert that. We're going to convert the cost of the direct labors and the manufacturing overhead into certain units. So these units are called equivalent units. So here is a 40,000. Okay, this is how many materials we have, how many units we have. This is true material, and here is for the 10,000, and we have not finished all of them. We only finished 25%. So we're going to use 10,000 times 25% becomes 2,500. So now we're going to get a conversion cost of the $42,500. 40,000 plus 2,500, so $42,500. So this will be some kind of more difficult for some people to understand. So be patient. Take your time, try to understand what this means. And it's on the book, and you want to take a look how we get to these numbers. And especially for this $2,500, it's easy to see, oh, it's 10,000 times 25%. You need to understand why. And the reason here is that 10,000 units, that's a work in process, only 25% have been finished. And how do we calculate how much labor we have put in? How much manufacturing overhead we need to calculate? So it's basically we use a way to calculate that into certain units called equivalent units. It's 10,000 times 25. So our labor, direct labor, and the manufacturing overhead, that equals to the cost to pay for the labor and the manufacturing overhead is equivalent to make 2,500 units of product. So this basically is the idea of equivalent cost. So in the book, there's an exercise on the back of the book, chapter, and chapter 5. It's a S5-4. So I'm going to take a look at how we are going to determine the physical flow of units, the processing cost of step 1. So here is Babson Soda's bottling department. So this soda, they bottle the soda for other companies, for this company. So they have a bottling department. So had 19,000 units in the beginning inventory. Okay, this is not a 0 anymore. So see here, this is a 0, but now we have 19,000. And in process, work in process on September 1st. During this month, September, 100,000 units were started into production. Means, okay, in this month in total, we have 100,000 units put into production line. On December the 1st, 29,000 units were left in ending inventory of work in process. So we still have 29,000 units in the inventory of the work in process. So we're going to see how much is the total for the physical flow of units in the schedule. So here, I just get all the numbers here. 19,000 is how much we have in the beginning, and then we started to produce to put in the process, working process is 100,000. So total physical units to account for will be 19,000 times 100,000 will be $119,000. So it's not given. You need to calculate that. And then how do we calculate these ones? Only trick here. It's not really the trick. You need to know is total physical units to account for. It equals to total units accounted for. So $119,000 will be put in here, and then use $119,000 minus $2,900. $29,000 will be number we want to have for the completed and transferred out during September. So it's in our next slide. So $119,000 is total. So this will be $119,000, and it'll be the same. They'll transfer this number to here, because this one completed and transferred out during September plus any work in process in September 30th, and equals to this number. So this is the only thing we don't know. We use this sum minus whatever number you hear. We got another number. So this is how we got. Okay, so that's pretty easy, huh? So let's see, step number 2. We're going to compute. Actually, we did that, so we just do it again. Compute output in terms of equivalent units. Again, direct labor and the manufacturing overhead. It can be converted into how many units. Yeah, now when we do this one, this is called conversion cost. Okay. This is how we do the calculation. When $10,000 times 25% is $2,500. So total will be $42,500. Here's another example. It's a process costing step number 2. Now we have a frying department of crinkle chips at 110,000 partially completed units in work. So we don't know what unit these units are, but just maybe pounds, maybe some other units. We don't care. So it's a working process at the end of March. So we're now getting to April, and now all of the direct materials had been added to these units, but the units were only 68% of the way through the conversion process. So in addition, so for this one's 68% are finished, but not all finished. So we can use this to calculate conversion cost, right? In addition, 1.2 million units had been completed and transferred out of the frying. Oh, this is only for April. For March. Transfer out to the frying department from frying department to the packaging department during the month. So we're going to have 1, 2, 3 here. How many equivalent units of direct materials and equivalent units of a conversion cost are associated with 1.2 million units completed and transferred out? So it's here. Completed and transferred out, it's 1.2 million units, right? So here's another one. Compute the equivalent units of direct material and equivalent units of conversion cost associated with 110,000 partially completed units still in the ending work in process. So this is ending work. This is basically, that's why we have 110,000 here as ending work in process. So total physical units accounted for will be this. Okay, so now we are going to find out other information we need to know here. What are the total equivalent units of direct materials and the total equivalent units of a conversion cost for the month? So here, you're going to have 1.2 million has been transferred out. So the raw material you have was still the same. Any work in process 110,000, and so we're going to have a transfer of $110,000 into raw materials, and still we have the same number here. And we're going to see another one with different numbers. And then these are the finished ones. So the finished ones will have the same conversion cost, so we are going to use the same thing. I said $1.2 million. It's always the same. And a work in process, and we have this one as is 68% of 110,000 partially completed work have been done. So 68% finished. So we're going to use 110,000 times 68% is equals to $74,800. 800 units, sorry. So we're going to get a total conversion cost of 1.2748 million units in the conversion cost. So if you want to see the total cost in the next step, you simply add them together. So 1.3 million plus 1.2 million, of course there's 1.31, 1.2748 million will be together, will be 2.5848 million units if you want to get a total. Here's step number 3 to summarize total cost to account for. And the cost here, now we haven't calculated. This is given in the book. So total cost to act during the October, it's companies may have this number, will have this number. And so $140,000 has added into in December, in October, and the conversion cost of $48,000. So this is how much they paid for the labor and how much paid for the manufacturing overhead. So calculate different another way. So now the total will be $140,000 for the direct materials and $48,000 for the conversion cost. The total will be $208,000. Okay, so this is the one to put dollars in into in account. So next step, we're going to take a look at the example here again. It's S5-7. It's step number 3. The company, whatever company, McLean Tire, company's work in process inventory accounted for $68,000 the beginning balance on May the 1st. 43,000 of this related to direct materials and 25,000 related to conversion costs. And so we're going to see summarize the department's total cost accounted for prepare. We're going to prepare a schedule that summarizes the department's total cost to account for the direct material and the conversion cost. So it's pretty easy, and I'm going to see here. Okay, so let's see the number here. 103 is direct materials, and 12,000 is a direct labor. Direct materials 103, and beginning is a 43, so total will be 146,000. And conversion is 25 beginning, and so cost during the May will be 162. How do we get that? And it's 150 times 12,000, so 162. And the total of conversion cost is this. So we just put them together, total. So we're going to have a total cost for the month. Number 4, we'll compute the cost per unit, cost per equivalent unit. To do that, is simply use the total divided by unit, number of units. Total in dollars divided by total in number of units. So from last step, we have $140,000 of raw materials, and from step number 2, we get 50,000 units, if you still remember. And it's a 40,000 plus 10,000, right? So it's a $50,000, 50,000 units. 140 divided by 50 is $2.8 per equivalent unit. The other one is of 68,000. So 68,000 is here. So total, no, it's not this one. It's here. $60,000 total of conversion cost divided by total number. So what is the total number? Is it 50,000? Actually, it's not. Remember, it's 4250. 40 plus 25% of 10 is 25. So 40,000 plus 2,500 is 42,500. So it is 68,000 divided by 42,500 becomes $1.6 per unit, per equivalent unit. So this is step number 4. We're going to see how much cost for 2 categories. One is direct materials, one is for the conversion cost, and per unit cost, we're going to calculate that. So next step is to calculate, assign total cost to units completed and to units ending work in process inventory. So it's pretty easy one because we have 2.8 and 1.4 now. So completed and transferred out is 40,000, and the ending work in process is 10,000. We still remember, right? For the raw material, and 40,000 is still for the conversion cost, and 2,500 is for also for the conversion cost. So it's because we only have a 25% of the work finished for the work in process. So 42 times 2.8 per unit equals to $112,000 total for the direct materials, as being for the completed and transferred out. And for any work in process is $28,000 using 10,000 times 2.8. Same idea goes here. 40 times 1.6 is 64,000, and 2,500 times 1.6 is 4,000. Total will be for the completed transferred out is $174,000. We're going to use this number later for the next step. Actually, next section, we're going to use this number to put it into the next step, next process. So here is how much we still have. 32,000 we still have in process, and the total account for the cost accounted for is $208,000. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. This is a very simple calculation. Assign cost. So we have a direct material for the per unit cost, per equivalent unit is 4.2, and conversion cost is 2.7. So let's see. So there's a number here. 410,000 units finished goods inventory transferred out. So the first one, determine units completed and transferred out. Okay. Determine the total cost for units completed transferred out. And at month end, 86,000. Okay, do the first one. And so here is the 41,000 so 410,000 times. Okay, this is the total cost. So this is direct material. This is conversion cost. So this is the per unit average cost. So use this one times the total. We get a total transfer out dollars costs. And the next one is determine units in any work in process, any work in process inventory. And so we have 86,000 remaining ending work in process. So same thing here. We're going to have there are two numbers here, and it's a 69 is equivalent unit of direct materials of 50,000 equivalent to conversion cost. So we're going to use 69 times 44.2 and 50,000 times 2.75. So this is how we got to this number, units in the ending. So this is how much we have the work in process inventory. And here is what was the total cost accounted for. Okay, let's put these two together. It's total cost, and what is the average cost of making 1 unit of its product? So it's a 4.2 plus 2.75. So 6.95 is the average cost of making 1 unit of its product. All right. So this is a little bit readings in the book, so I'm not going to go through this too much. And sustainability and process costing, and it employs lean and green processes for sustainability here. Efficient and environmental friendly are they? So it's also for the question to ask for the sustainability, and many parties benefits because of sustainability issues. So here's the one to compute the cost per equivalent units. So I'm not going to go through that in here, just so you can just read and find out. It's very simple and very easy. Next objective is to journalize. When the journal entry for the process costing system. It's very similar to job costing, except the manufacturing costs, direct labor, and the direct material, direct labor, and manufacturing overhead are assigned to processing departments rather than jobs. So at the end of the month, a journal entry must be made to transfer costs to the next processing department. So here we have a direct material that our requisitioned for use by December the 1st. So 140,000, remember $140,000 we transfer out, so from the department to next. So the raw material will be used to make, so inventory is going down, it's a credit, it's 140,000, and we add to the work in process as $140,000. So you must use dollars but not equivalent units. And here is a number. This one is given. Labor time records show that $21,250 of direct labor was used. So simply put that down as a wage payable because we have not paid yet. So we're going to increase wages payable. So it'll be a credit here. We're going to add this to the cost of an inventory. So it'll be $21,250 add to the inventory by debit that. And here's manufacturing overhead is allocated to the department using the company's predetermined overhead rate. So overhead rate is $50 per machine hour, and it uses 935 machine hours. So use 50 times 935 equals to 46,750, and so it becomes a work in process as a cost, and then in manufacturing overhead we increase for 64. So this is a cost of inventory, and this is we're going to take credit to the manufacturing overhead. Okay, it's also a cost, but they are in different categories. This is inventory, this is cost. Okay, this is TE accounts. You're going to put everything in the debit side. In the working process, we have increased the inventory for the working process in here, and the total is $208,000. And then we're going to have, well, let's see, how much is that? Oh, 208. So why they put it here? This is been done already. Oh, this is 176. Okay, 176. Remember, we have calculated that in here. This is how much we completed and transfer out. So these are the total units will be transferred out to the next step. So 176 will be added into the work in process inventory for the insertion, and then work in process inventory for the shaping is going down for 176,000. But this is different. So we still have a balance. I think it's the next one. Oh, it doesn't have it. So we still have a balance of work in process. We should have another. This one should be work in process shaping should transfer in here. Then you can put a line here, get a balance here. It's easy. 208 minus 176. It should be $32,000 in the work in process inventory balance, the debit side. So here's another example. So I'm not going to do that here together, but interestingly, you want to just take a look at this one because it's the one in the back of the book chapter, and it's the unit here is a gallon. It gives the units. So for the paints, they use the unit of gallons. So this is the beginning balance for the inventory, the 0 again, and the started production for the month is 8,400 gallons, and completed the 6,200 gallons, and ending work in process to 22,000 gallons, and so on. So these are the numbers in dollars. So it's easy to comply to using this to put into the journal entries. Just put the numbers in here. It's pretty simple to do. And here, actually, these are the numbers you put in. Yeah, it doesn't have you to do the per unit cost and so on. This is only for complete 5 steps. Oh, it does ask you to do the 5 steps. Now the solution here doesn't have all the 5 steps here. Okay, you may want to finish that by yourself. It's not difficult to do. Okay. Objective number 5, we're going to use process costing in second or later production. So the only thing different here is we're going to have the working process from last process to the current process. So we're going to have a transfer. We're going to have one more column to accommodate this transfer. So that's the same 5-step process. We're going to include cost of units transferred in. It's got a cost of units transferred in on calculating equivalent units and a cost per equivalent units. So we're going to have a transferred in costs. So here, so here is what's been given in exhibit 5.5-12. We have units accounted for the beginning is 5,000, and then 40,000 units are transferred in during October, and a total physical units to accounted for is 42,000 units. And here we have just different numbers, and 38,000 units has been finished in this particular department. It's insertion department, and then there's ending 7,000 units that's during process, and then we have a total of 45. So they are always the same numbers. So here are the information we want to complete is also in exhibit 5-12, and here the first column I've done already. So transfer. So 38,000 and 7,000 are all transferred from last month, because this is a step. All the product actually that they're working on all from the last step. So this one's always the same as this one. And here for the direct materials, so 38,000 has been finished. So basically this is a direct material I've used for the 38,000 units, and here's a 0. It's 7,000 units in the ending work in process, and here direct materials is 0, because if you look at the page of page 255, oh, it's not 255. Let's see which one. 267, and direct materials are added at a time when everything's finished. So you don't have direct materials for the $7,000 yet, but the labor and a direct labor and the manufacturing overhead are accumulated. So we have finished, let's see, 30% of all these jobs, all this working process, and then 30% times 7,000 is $2,100, 2,100 units. So total here is 40,100 units. So compared to the 38,000 compared to 45,000, there are different numbers. Okay, so everything else after this, they are the same. So we're going to summarize total cost to account for and compute the cost per equivalent units. So we can do very simple calculation and get a total dollar values divided by total units. Total dollar values divided by units and so on, and you're going to get unit costs. So direct material, transferring, conversion costs, and then you can get a total. These are the total costs to have calculated. Okay, So with these ones, we're going to assign total cost to units completed and the total units in work in any work in process inventory. So 4.4, actually it's a 4.4, and for transfer in, and direct materials 0.5, and then conversion cost 0.335. Excuse me. So here transfer in, and so you have 167, and here is the direct materials for this one is 19. So this is step. In this step is pretty easy, pretty simple, and a 4.4 is from last step. So for the transfer in cost, here's another one. Here's the for this particular process we have direct material and conversion cost. So it's pretty cheap to do that. 0.5 per unit, 0.35 per unit. So you get a total for the transferring cost, and for the materials and for the conversion cost, you get a total cost here. And that's for the completed. And then you're going to have an ending in any work in process. We're going to have 7,000 times 4.4 and 5. It's 0 here because it's also 0 here, and 2,400 times 3.57. It's 0.37, 0.35 is 735. So get another number. So get a total cost accounted for is this one, but more we're looking at these two numbers. So that's basically end of the chapter. So we finished everything within an hour. So if you have any questions, again, feel free to ask. And so feel free to ask me. If I'm always available. You can text me, you can email me. I really prefer texting because text messaging, because it's easy, and because I can get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next chapter.